has the magic touch. And get started. All right. Pardon me while I move all gimpified. I learned a valuable lesson yesterday, and I always keep learning this lesson and then forgetting this lesson. Don't just sit like when your car is parked on an angle with the door open and your leg out of the, I was like, oh yeah. Every single time I'm like, why did I do that? I know better. So if you're like, why is Audra moving like that? I just bruised my shin bone, it's fine. Anyway, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me for Pilates All Levels. My name is Audra, and today we're going to use a ball. I think all of you have one. If you're at home and you don't have one, you can fold a pillow a couple times or just go without. Anytime we decide to hold it in between our knees. If you're like, I don't have one, you can always grab a yoga block, use your fists, whatever you need. We're going to begin lying down on our back, knees bent, feet flat, ball in between our knees. And just start by kind of sinking into your mat and seeing where you are today. No judgments, just observations. Once you let yourself kind of sink, see if you feel even. And then place your hands on your hip bones. Are your hip bones actually sitting even, or is one higher than the other? If one is higher than the other, instead of thinking of that hip bone driving down, think of your sit bone just reaching a tiny bit farther away, like their car headlights, and one just wants to reach a little bit farther. And then bring your hands to your ribs, right? Or are they even? Is one side kind of shifted to the side? Is one side compressed? No judgment, just observation. And then just place your hands on your shoulders. See if one maybe is higher than the other, if they're both pretty even. And then place your hands on your occipitals, so the base part of your skull, and just see if one side is turned. And you can actually put a little bit of pressure at the top of your neck if it feels good, creating a little bit of traction. And then keeping your chin tucked, nod your chin, place your head down on the ground. We're going to bring our hands to our front. So one on our sternum and one on our low belly. And as we breathe, we're going to see what our hands are doing. So big inhale, 4 counts in through your nose. Hold, 6 counts out, allowing all of the oxygen to escape your lungs. And again. And just notice if it feels like your low ab is or your low hand is really moving, or if your upper hand is moving. In an ideal world, since we're trying to breathe 3-dimensionally, our bottom hand will be moving, but it won't be just like going fully to the sky, because we're dropping our diaphragm down and our whole transverse abdominis should be expanding. Softening and exhaling from the top hand. So melt your throat down away from your face. And then bring your hands to the sides of your ribs. So your thumbs are going to wrap around the back, just the bottom parts of your ribs. And then as you breathe, try to expand into those hands as well as the front. And for the first couple, just see what your ribs do as you exhale. So in an ideal world, they're going to move without force. And then we can apply an oblique strategy. So now, as you exhale, think about your ribs gently drawing down towards your belly button. And as you continue to exhale, you can use your muscles to draw your hip bones together, your ribs together. Find that engagement of your TA. And then inhale, wide. On your next exhale, find that engagement and then also squeeze the ball. We're just layering on. Inhale. Exhale. 2 more. And at any point, you can come back to this if you need to, or just want to. On your next exhale, we're going to rock our pelvis. So on your exhale, think about pulling your hip bones towards your face, letting your low back melt to the ground. And then rock back to neutral. Small move. Exhale. Let the lower back melt into the ground. Let the ribs soften. And notice how that affects your head, right? Notice where your head wants to go as your pelvis moves. 2 more. Now on your next one, we're going to move our head and just let your pelvis come along for the ride. So look up, lift your chin, look down, lower your chin. Look up and notice how that creates an environment where the rest of your spine responds, yeah? Can everybody feel how their lower back and pelvis want to like move with their head? Yeah? You can give me a thumbs up if you need to. Here, good. Now, come back to your center, interlace your hands behind your head, spiral your elbows forward, shoulders draw down your back. Inhale. Exhale, just come into your chest lift. See what your body does. You don't have to come super high and then come back down. So keep your elbows in your periphery so your serratus can help you lift. Last one, just like this without other intention. So hold here and see what your abs did. If they created kind of a bread dome, that's okay. That just means that your rectus abdominis is a little bit more active. So on your next one, exhale, think about bringing everything together before you move and see what that does. Do you feel it a little bit differently? And then on this next one, just imagine coming up and over a beach ball. Good. See which one feels the best in your body. And that's the one you're going to stick with. Come back up and hold. Now, maybe you're down here, that's fine. If your shoulders are completely on the ground and your head is up, that's really kind of pulling on your neck. So see if you can lift from your ribs, sinking down. If you cannot, head down is fine. Hands come forward, push them into an imaginary surface. Hands come back behind your head. Now on your exhale, squeeze the ball. And then relax a little. Exhale, squeeze the ball. As we squeeze the ball, think about your hip bones also coming together. See if you can deepen that abdominal connection. Looking through your thighs, because we just discovered that where our eyes go, our spine goes, right? So 2 more. Last one, slowly lower down. Now come up and we rotate so your rib cage just looks to the side of one of your thighs. And then back to center, lower back down. Inhale, exhale, other side. Lift and rotate. And just see if one side is easier than the other. Using your breath to guide you. Now, even though we want our obliques to move us, If you have trouble getting much rotation, think about the side you're rotating to. That outside elbow is going to help point you in that direction. So when I rotate to the left, my right elbow points a little bit more to the left. And when I rotate to the right, my left elbow points a little bit more to the right. Now, as we do this, you can start layering on, of course, breath, we're already using it, but our opposite inner thigh. So as you rotate to the left, squeeze the left thigh. And then as you rotate to the right, squeeze the right thigh. 2 more. Last one. Come back through center, head comes down. Hands can come to the ground. Now, if you're like me and your shoulder loves to internally rotate, you can always bring your palms to the sky or your palms face each other. Slide your feet back a little closer to you if you need to, and make sure that your toes are pointing straight ahead instead of out to the side. On your exhale, sink your low back to the ground, and then start to peel your spine, a bone at a time, coming up into your bridge. Now at the top of your bridge, wait and check in. If your weight is on your head or your neck, or you are lifting from your armpits, or you feel compression in your low back, hollow out through the front, soften your sternum away. Make sure you're pressing into your big toe mound so the bottom of your glutes can help stabilize you. On the way down, we're going to melt through our throat, our ribs, our low back, our hips. Now, if it is more comfortable for your spine to come into a small imprint and then hinge up, that's okay. We're still trying to create that neutral pelvis effect, right? As opposed to an anterior tilt and a little arch. So I don't mind you staying low if that's where you need to be. Melting on the way down as well. Good, widening through your sits bones. And kind of like at the beginning, if you have one side that wants to hike or one side that wants to rotate, just be aware and see if you can softly and gently guide it to being just slightly more even. We have one more. Pressing down into the ground, lengthening your knees away from your face, thinking of dragging your heels towards you, and then melt all the way down. Arms come out to the side into a T or a goalpost position, and just press from the back of your shoulder, your knuckles into the ground. If your shoulder comes up and forward, I need you to widen through your collarbones. Don't press as high or as hard. So press down and then relax. And again, press down. You can come up onto your toes. Keep pressing down with both knuckles and let your knees start to slide to one side. Trying not to arch here. We are lengthening that hip away from our face. And then exhale, dragging it back from the ribs. Other side. And exhale. So most of our rotation should come through our thoracic spine, right? Our rib cage part of our spine. And our lower back shouldn't actually be doing that much rotating. The vertebrae themselves actually have these little like stoppers on the sides, which makes it not rotate as far. So try to keep more of the rotation through your ribs here. Just let your back relax. And then if you're like, cool, I would like more work, fantastic. Bring your legs to your tabletop. making sure that you lift one hip as the other hip lowers. Inhale, exhale, drag it back. And again, other side, trying not to let the hip kind of drop down, but push up and over. Couple more. And 2. Last one, each side. Come all the way back. Now, if you need to place your feet on the ground, that's fine. Otherwise, we're going to bring our hands behind our head, come back up into our chest lift. And if you're kind of low, that's okay. You're always welcome to grab behind your thighs and press your thighs into your hands to help you lift. Now squeeze the prop, and I'm going to show you a couple different variations. With legs up, we're just going to tap the toes towards the ground. They don't actually have to make it, and then back. If you're more comfortable with your feet on the ground, you can do a march, one leg at a time. If you're marching, make sure you're actually pushing your foot down into the ground rather than just letting it gently rest on the ground. That will help increase the muscle activity in your hamstrings. Now, as we do this and we float the toes above the ground, if you would then like to include pushing into the ground for those hamstrings and then floating it back up, you are welcome to. And of course, breaks are always great. 3, 2 more. And you can always put your head down. Last one. Bring your head down. We're going to use the palms of our hands. So thinking about hugging our armpits in, one hand on the other, we're going to push into one of our legs. And then other side. Now, if you need your feet on the ground, that's fine. You can always just float one leg up at a time. And if you have long arms, you could even do this with your legs fully down. Now, we're going to push into one leg. And everybody take your ball, set it to the side. We're going to push into one leg, tap the other toe down. And then float it back other side. So this is a flexion-free beginning of crisscross. Making sure once again that you're not pressing from your neck or upper shoulders, but your armpit muscles. We're trying to find maybe a little lat, but mostly serratus. Now, if you'd like, you can extend that leg away and then bring it in. Pushing that foot into a little couch that you want to push away from you, reaching it across the room. Yeah. Couple more just like this. We're going to hold this last one out. Go ahead, think about that foot pushing so far away, and it's going to lower. So that extended foot comes to the ground. Hands can come behind your head. You can come into a chest lift if that works for you. Good. Now this leg can either be up or down. The one extended, you're going to push away and maybe it hovers a tiny bit and then comes down. So it's less about straightening the knee. It's less about lifting the foot. It's about reaching that tension rod away from you. Now, the longer your legs are, the harder it's going to be to actually lift. So don't worry about it, right? That's not necessarily the goal. Last one. Drag that foot in, other side. Right. And so once again, you can always put the foot on the ground if that helps you feel more secure. And all we're doing, connecting that thigh bone to our ribs, pushing the foot away. Don't even worry about it lifting. If my quad is overactive that day, if I'm here, I don't feel my abs at all. I only feel my quad. Whereas if I just push the foot away, even if it doesn't leave the floor, it's more ab engagement, right? So don't worry if it lifts or not. We have just a couple more here. 2 more. Last one. Now extend both of your legs. All right. They still need to connect to your the thigh to your ribs. And if as we do this, you feel your back, don't do that again, right? So we're going to begin one leg, and then try 2 legs. If 2 legs is too much, just do 1, 1. Okay. So come on up. We're going to push 1 foot away. Maybe it starts to hover. Other foot away. And then think about both of them being pushed away. Maybe they start to float, maybe they don't. And then 1 leg, 1 leg. Both legs push away. Good. Once again, it's more about an away, not a lift. So let's everybody try this. Let's try closing your eyes. Think about just lifting your foot, nothing else. Do you feel what your like pelvis kind of did? And then lift the other foot. Now, push your feet away, whether they lift or not. And then push them away. Do you feel a little bit more of that tension rod of work? Great. Now, see if both feet want to hover. If they do, great. Looking at your feet. Kyle, no, Kyle, belly button in more before you push. Yes, even more. Yeah, keep that. Yes. Yeah, good. Feel more exciting? And bring your head down. Now, we're going to do hundreds. If you love classical hundreds, you can now push the feet away to lift you up as you reach your hands forward. Otherwise, let's start with our feet down, head down. Reach your fingers away, start pumping your arms. Just notice what your ribs want to do, right? So we're trying to fill our entire cylinder, right? Our torso is like a soda can with oxygen. And then if you want, lift your head. And then if you want, bring your legs to tabletop. And then if you want, you can start to send your feet away. Or if you are doing the classical hundreds, the feet are lower. It is the exact same thing we just found. Good. Make sure you're squeezing those inner thighs together, reaching the fingers forward, and then slowly lower your head and your feet. Go ahead, bring your arms overhead. Big inhale, exhale, nod your chin, curl, and roll forward. Good. We're about to do some roll-ups. So if you have a prop you love for roll-ups or style of roll-ups you like to do, that's great. Reach your hands forward and then reach your ribs back as if somebody you like is coming up behind you and hugging you. And then the ears lift a little bit too. Now, curl your tailbone towards your face, lengthening through the front of your thighs. Good. Keeping it nice and slow. Let those armpits open. And then exhale, nod your chin. Peel up. Good. Now, roll-ups are awesome. That's spinal articulation, it's abdominal control. If getting up is a task that it feels impossible and you have to like fling yourself to get there, instead, grab a leg. You can always use a leg to help you, right? You can also, if using a leg feels a little too easy for you, bend your knees slightly And then as you roll up, if you need just the teeniest bit of momentum, send your heels away. Good. Yep. Good. That part where it goes, it's because you're looking up. If you look forward, it's not going to have that same kind of, yeah. So yeah, if you look forward towards your feet, and use your breath. Inhale, exhale. Yeah. Good. Now, if you want more challenge, you can always have your hands behind your head. So close. Yeah, more exciting. Yeah. Good. Okay, Kyle, you're slipping. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Good. Nice job. One more, everybody. Beautiful. Nice job going with whichever version is best for you and your body today. Good. We're going to take our prop. We're going to bring it with us. So roll all the way down, lift your hips, and slide the prop underneath our hips. So first, just find center. We're going to let our hips typewriter from side to side, or they're going to swipe right and left. If you're like, I've never seen a typewriter before. Now come back to center and let your hips kind of move anteriorly, posteriorly, only in like a range that you are comfortable. If you have any flexion intolerance or extension intolerance, don't go into the range that feels bad. And then on your exhale, you're going to find neutral and just press your hips down into the ball from the front of your abs. And then relax. And again. Now, if that feels appropriate, stick with that. If you're ready to bring your legs to tabletop, great. Keep pressing down into the prop, and you can extend your feet up towards the sky. Don't let your ribs pop. Push your feet away from you so they start to lower, and then flex, bring them up. Now, maybe your feet only go a little bit, and that's great. Maybe you bend your knees and you do toe taps. Also fantastic. Maybe you can only do one leg at a time. That's also fine. We have two more. Last one. And then bring your legs back to tabletop. Now, spiral your thigh bones externally so you're in a little frog position, squeezing your heels together. Now, it's okay to slide your fingertips into your hip crease if you tend to be pretty grippy in the hip flexors. So squeeze your heels from your inner thigh and then push your feet away there. And then let the legs just drag in gently from the inner thigh. You do have gravity helping bring your legs in. So if your hip flexors love to help, instead of thinking of pulling your knees in, think of bending your knees slightly and gravity pulling them in. And then you just resist gravity from your glutes. Two more. Last one. And then extend one leg up and away, keeping that other leg kind of hugged in. So maybe your knee bends, maybe your leg stays straight. We're just getting a little stretch through the front of our thigh. And then we can also take the same side arm as leg and reach it overhead. Breathe into any area that you feel a stretch in. Trying to maintain that gentle posterior tilt without force. Other side. So slide it in, extend it up and away. Maybe the knee bends, maybe it doesn't. Just finding that little stretch. And then the hand can come up and over and breathe. And then come back. Bring your feet down to the ground, lift your hips. We're coming onto our side for a second. Now you're welcome to use the ball as a pillow, or you can use your arm as a pillow. We're gonna stack our hips. So what that means for today is like one hip is not pulled toward your face, it's away from your face. Now beginning at your rib cage, we're going to rotate. So start to bring your sternum a little bit towards the sky. Inhale, exhale, see if you get a little bit more movement. Notice how in order to maintain a neutral and not start arching, your thigh, your top thigh is gonna have to slide off your bottom thigh, and that is okay. And then we rotate back beginning with our ribs. Our hips come along for the ride. Ribs rotate, hips come along for the ride. Rotate back from the ribs. This should feel good on your back. If you tend to go into crazy ranges, pause right before your end range. And if you tend to be a little bit hypomobile, pause at your end range, breathe, and see if you can gently tell your nervous system that it is safe to go into a bigger range of motion, right? Remember, a safe nervous system is a happy nervous system. Come back to center, and we can use that prop underneath our head if you are ready. So stack your hips again so that bottom rib is lifted off the ground just a little bit, as if I wanted to slide a sheet of paper underneath you. Unwind your hips so you're in neutral. Extend your top leg away. Now glance at it. If you can see your whole foot, I would like it to come behind you just ever so slightly. Pushing that foot away, 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 that glute starts to kick on. Flex your foot, squeegee it down, try to get a little bit of texture on the way down as well. So it's a paintbrush up and a squeegee down. If you want to squeegee up too, that's okay. So you're reaching that foot away, you're reaching your hip away. Good. 2 more. Good. Last one like this. Bring it down. Now, all we're going to do is rotate our thigh externally. So our knee is going to want to point a little bit towards the sky. That's it. And maybe you get more range, maybe you don't. But maybe you also feel your glute kicking on differently, right? Good. Couple more. 3, 2, good. How's that glute feeling? A little bit or a lot bit? Yeah. Last one, hold the leg down. Glance at it again, still trying to make sure that that knee is rotated a little bit, foot slightly behind you. We just do tiny little circles. Dragging that foot behind you. 5. Still trying to keep that length through your spine. 4. And then reverse the circles. Good. 2. Now all we're going to do is point the knee forward. So now we're in neutral, but our foot is still slightly behind us. Exact same thing, circle again. Do you feel this in a slightly different place? Yeah. And then reverse. Good. Now bring your knees together, and maybe you like having them forward at 90 degrees. Maybe you like having them back a little bit. If they are back, just make sure the ribs aren't popping in the back as an arching. We'll only take them as far back as your body allows. Now, small external rotation here, and then back down. So we're doing a clamshell. Good. Now, if you get more out of a clamshell from internal rotation, you can either lift your feet, prop them up on the ball, whatever you need to do. We have 4. Good. 3 more. Making sure that your hip bones stay facing forward. 2. Last 1. Nice job, everybody. Come on to your forearm. Now, making sure we're not in slumber party shoulder. I know it's tempting. What's up? What are you wearing to school on Monday? We're going to press that elbow into the ground, lift the ribs, lift the obliques. Now, push your knees into the ground. Inhale. Exhale, drive your knees so far down that maybe your hips lift. If maybe your hips don't lift, that's okay, just lift your ribs more. Good. Think about that top inner thigh, bottom glute helping you. And then slowly let the hips lower and let your spine move with you. So now we are curving our spine, head up a little bit, and then press plank. Yeah. And then slowly lower the hips. Now, if you're like, this is fine, I'd like more, you can extend your top leg. And then if you want, your bottom leg. Nancy, if you are wanting to do like your arm like this, be on your knee, top or bottom knee. Yeah. Yeah, you can always come onto your hand, you know that, but be on your knee instead of, yeah, good. Nice job, everybody. Last 2. Last 1. Good. Now coming through center, we're coming onto forearms and knees, small little knee plank. You can always be on hands and knees, but we're trying to drive the elbows into the mat from our armpits, lifting our ribs, breathing into our back, letting it expand. We're just holding for a second. Find a little bit of roundness through your thoracic if you tend to be flat in your thoracic. If you tend to overarch in your lumbar, try to find some roundness there. And then we're coming on to the other side. So you can either let your head be supported by your hand or by the ball. We're just going to rotate. Once again, we're rotating from our rib cage, letting that thigh bone slide, letting that spine stay as neutral as possible, and then back. I'm going to turn around. Also, guys, don't worry. We'll get more planks. I know you were very worried. And once again, let your nervous system know it's safe. One way to do that is by breath. Slow 4-count inhale, longer 6-count exhale. That encourages our parasympathetic nervous system to kick on rather than our sympathetic nervous system. And at your end range, check in, right? If you have crazy ranges of motion, just for this, just for now, maybe temper that range slightly. Don't go as far. And if you tend to not have very big ranges, hold at the end. Breathe. And just ask your body if it is stopping because it's just nervous or if that's its final range. Couple more. And then come back. All right, we're going to put that prop underneath our head if it's not already. Lengthen that top foot away. Lift your bottom ribs. as if I wanted to slide a sheet of paper under you. We're trying to find a nice, like, straight spine. Then glance at your foot. If it is forward, bring it back slightly. Paintbrush it up, squeegee down. Now, if your foot tends to migrate forward, that is an indicator that maybe your TFL is a little excited, which, okay, no problem. Just think about the leg coming back in space ever so slightly. Good. Try to keep your hip bones pointing forward to the best of your ability. Good. We have just a few more. And 2. Last one. Make sure that foot is still slightly behind you, and then try to spiral that thigh bone externally. Now, if you are missing range and you tend to move through your foot to try to get your knee there, see if you can let your foot relax. And we push and bring it back. Does that feel a little different? We're just going up and down again. Right? You might get more range, you might not. Good. Couple more. You guys are amazing. 3, 2. Now keep it slightly behind you. Keep it externally rotated, and we circle. Good. And just notice what your muscles tell you, right? We have 4 more. Good. Still try to keep that spine long. And then reverse. Good. 4, 3, 2. Now, exact same thing. We're just going to point the knee forward. Yeah, that's it. Good. Just see what muscles are talking now. Are they the same fibers of the muscles or different? And then reverse. 5, 4, 3, 2. Good. And then bring your knees together. Now, maybe they're at 90-90 because that's how you can find your glutes. Maybe you bring them back. Just make sure if you bring them back in space, you're not popping your ribs. It doesn't feel bad on your back or your knees. And we just press the heels together slightly and rotate. Now, maybe you prefer your feet elevated, and that's great. You can prop them up on a pillow, a ball, a yoga block, or if you like the extra challenge, you can keep your feet elevated on their own. We have just a few more. Trying to keep those hip bones pointing forward. 5, 4, 3. Good. Last one. Go ahead, slide yourself up to your forearm. Good. And then make sure we're not hanging out. We're going to push and lift, right? And just hold for a second. Making sure you're making contact not just with the ground, but below it. Now push the knees into the ground, your hips will lift. And then you can slowly let them lower, let your ribs lower, let your head elevate, and then push and lift. Good. Now, if this feels good, great, extend a leg. If that feels good or too easy, extend your other leg. Just make sure you're not collapsing into your shoulder, right? And you're not dropping to the ground. So you're slowly lowering yourself. Now, if this isn't comfortable and you want to be on your hand, that's no problem. You can always be on your hand. I recommend for this, unless you know you have the strength and control of the shoulder, to be able to do it full-footed, I recommend the knee down, because we're trying to also find a little bit of lateral flexion here. Good. 2 more. Last one. come down. We're coming onto all fours this time. Hands and knees instead of forearms and knees. Now, if it's not comfortable for you to be on your hands, you can always be on your forearms or your fists. Think about your shoulders melting out of your ears and your upper arm bones gently externally rotating. Push the floor away. Now find your abs here, just gently. And we're sliding one foot away from us. Now, if it's just barely grazing the floor, push it into the ground and see if you can get your glute to activate a little bit more with that closed chain. And then slide it back, other side. It's kind of like the same thing with the arms, right? If we're just hanging out and not pushing the floor away, the arms aren't supporting us. So we're actually trying to move the floor away from us. Good. Now, you can, of course, hover that foot, but imagine pushing something away to add a little texture through the movement. And then if that feels great and you would like more excitement, you can, of course, reach the opposite arm away from you. Make sure you hold for a second and then slowly lower, right? A lot of times we tend to really focus on the concentric and then we forget about the isometric and eccentric. So that isometric, we're going to hold and then slowly lower. Yeah. 2 more. If you're really curious about how stable you are, you can always take your prop and place it on your lower back. If it falls, no worries. It just tells you what's going on, right? Maybe on one side, you're really stable. Maybe on the other side, you're not, right? Good. 1 more, each side. And then bring one foot back, slide the other foot back to meet it. Lengthening your ears. Now, if you need to be on your knees, that's okay. If you would like, you can bend a knee in, reach it back, other side. Now, if you want, you can just stick with that toe tap instead. Okay, couple more. And 2. Last set. Knees down. Press yourselves into your rest position. Take your hands up and over to one side. Press your hips away. And then other side. Now go ahead, slide your hands in a little bit closer to you, like a little sphinx position. Let your low back stay kind of rounded here because we're trying to find movement through our thoracic. If you tend to have a very mobile thoracic and a little less mobile lumbar, you can try to add a little bit more to the lumbar, but for the most part, let's focus on rib cage. So widen through your shoulder blades as if you're trying to take off a big jacket. Open your collarbones forward and just start to lift. Good. And slowly lower. Now, if you like to move through your lumbar spine, really try to keep the tuck of the tailbone. I know it's very like late 90s, early 2000s, but if you remember the Little Mermaid where she like brings herself up over the rock, right? It's the same kind of thing. You're pushing down to lift your chest, to look at dry land, and then you come back down. Good. Couple more here. Just finding gently the spots of your spine that might be a little reticent, right? Maybe your upper thoracic is like, I don't want to move. Maybe it's mid, maybe it's lower, right? So the spots that are a little less likely to want to do their job, Breathe. Give them a little encouragement. Good. And then bring one hand to your shoulder. We're going to widen through our collarbones again, widen through that elbow. Now, rotating more actively through our thoracic, we're going to rotate and then come back down, just to center. Good. So we already did the passive rotation and now we're doing active. Now, if you'd like more range, straighten the arm as you go. Straightening the arm creates a little bit more passive range of motion. So maintain the active as well. Last one. And then we get to do the other side. So widen through those collarbones, widen through your elbow, hold. And we're just going to actively rotate and come back. Now, trying not to let your little wing dive forward, right? If you get kind of stuck almost, think about your shoulder externally rotating and then retracting slightly and see if that helps get a little bit more range of motion. And then if you like, you can always add on. Good. Just a couple more. And 2. Last one. And we're going to come on to our stomach. Now, yes, we're doing a little bit of extension, but this is going to be pretty small and specific to start. Bring your hands into kind of a goalpost, head down. Now, instead of thinking of lifting up, think of lengthening away like you're being shot out of a cannon. Using your armpit muscles, drag your shoulders down. So you've suction cupped your hands and elbows, and you're pulling down from your armpits as if you were doing a lat pull at the gym. Now that our lats are active, squeeze your glutes. Maybe your feet lift, maybe they don't. Lengthen through the crown of your head. So you're pushing down to lengthen forward. Now inhale, exhale, float your arms up. Come down. We're going to do that again. Suction cup, push to lift. We're trying to use the lats and the glutes. That is our posterior oblique subsystem when coupled with the thoracolumbar fascia, right? So we're trying to activate that. And then we're trying to bypass our erectors, right? So we're trying to find a little bit of quiet through the low back so our tiny stabilizers can do the work. Last one, if you feel tension in your low back, you don't actually have to lift your hands, just imagine lifting them. Now hands can come forward, shoulder blades draw down. If that is where you were, that's what you should continue doing. Otherwise, squeeze the glute, draw the shoulder blade down as we do a slow swimming variation. Still pressing into the ground. Now, if that feels good and you'd like, you can always hover. Good. Keep the movement a little bit soft. No gripping. Hands down, set your shoulders, press yourself back into your rest position. Hands up and over to one side. Push your hips away. Up and over other side. And we're coming to standing so we can do a little bit of balance work. Now, If you'd like more challenge with your balance work, of course, stay on a squishy mat. Otherwise, heel to toe. Oh, it's one of those days for me just getting into position. All right. So think about finding center, right? So shift your weight forward and back a couple times, keeping your legs straight. Good. Think about squeezing the inner thighs together just a little bit. Good. Now maybe this is where you are. Awesome. Maybe you want to look to a side and another side. And maybe that's too easy and you're going to look up and up as you go from side to side. Kyle, circle your whole head up. Yeah, like you're watching a beautiful bird or an ominous rain cloud. Good. It's harder, isn't it? The looking up. Yeah. One more each direction. And then other side. Yeah, you're welcome. It just tells us what we need to work on, right? Yeah. So maybe this is where we are. Maybe it's a look from side to side. Okay, if you accidentally make eye contact with someone or a friendly group, give them the eyebrows, give them a wink. And then we can take it up if you want. I'm sorry, all of you look like you're like, do I want to do this? Yeah, it's fine. One of the coolest parts about it is one of the easiest things to do is just not do it the next time. Give yourself a second. Good. Last one. Good. Feet together. Now, let's lift one foot. See how that feels. Maybe it's not a big deal now. Yeah. And then feet together, other side. Maybe this is so easy that next time you're going to want to be on squishy surface. Good. Both feet down, slide your shoulders to your ears, drop them down. And let's go ahead and flip our palms up, lifting up towards the sky. Big breath. Come back. Nice job, you guys. Give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for joining us, Yvonne. I'll see you soon. Amy. Thanks for joining us today. Good. Good. Oh, yeah. Totally. On.